The greatest show on earth will soon take its final bow. After 146 years, the Ringling Brothers Circus is calling it quits. Its parent company says the entertainment industry is changing. Just last year, the circus retired its famed Elephant Act. For a long time, animal welfare groups have criticized the show for the use of captive animals like those elephants. But it's not just that. Some argue there's an economic case against circuses as well. Christina Scaringe is General Counsel of Animal Defenders International. You guys looked at the economics behind this. What did the economics tell us about these animal-based shows?
Well, and that was the economics were cited as a reason for Ringling retiring or getting out of the business. The costs are very high for them, and the costs are very high for the American taxpayer as well. The oversight and the regulation is largely covered by the American taxpayer. The licensing fees and the penalties, the very rare penalties that these organizations pay, they're often negotiated down. They don't cover the cost of oversight, and the internal audit reports done of these agencies showing that the regulations aren't working. So not only is it costly, they're not working.
And go ahead, please.
Well, we see that the ticket prices aren't that affordable for the average American anymore. Meanwhile, you see circuses like Cirque du Soleil, they're actually expanding their North American market. They only began in 1990, and they're an $800 million enterprise now. So the market is responding with what the changing audiences want to see. And the changing audiences don't want to see inhumane animal acts. And it's good all around. We still have a bill in the federal legislature because we're trying to address this costly regulatory oversight. The American taxpayer shouldn't have to keep paying for it. It doesn't work. And the science would indicate that it can't work.
And I mean, this is a trend that we've seen growing over time. Have you seen the industry, you know, in the Ringling shutting down, a reflection of that? Have you seen it sort of coming to this point and watching as we've been getting closer and closer to this day?
It certainly happened faster than we expected. You know, Ringling was quoted back in 2005 at that time saying that their primary economic driver was not the animals, but was actually what they referred to as the celebrity clown. And they were quoted in that article as paying these celebrity clowns upwards of $600 grand a year. So they were already focusing their drivers for economics on other shows and other impetus than the animals. The cost of these animals is going up, and the care, even if we give them the argument that, which we're not giving, if we don't give them the argument that these animals are well cared for, the animals can't tolerate it. So what we have is a changing audience, a changing market. We have regulation that costs too much for the taxpayers, and we have industry that is responding in kind. We see a growing market of human performance circuses. There's more than 20 in the U.S. right now, and they're doing very well. Meanwhile, we see circuses like Cole Brothers and Ringlings deciding to shut their doors. It's too bad that they didn't take on the human performance model more quickly, maybe even a decade ago, and perhaps they would have been able to continue. Actually, they have several. They have Disney on Ice, and they have the Marvel show, both of which are human performance activities, and those shows are doing very well.
And just to make that abundantly clear, Ringling owns a stake in those. Have I got that right?
Right. Ringling is owned by Feld Entertainment Industries, FEI, and they own Disney on Ice and the Marvel show, which is essentially a motorcycle show. But they're both human performance oriented, and those shows are doing very well. So it's a different kind of entertainment that audiences want to see now. And now that we know, as a public, we know more about what the real costs are to these animals, people are choosing other forms of entertainment.
Well, and let's delve into those costs, because the sort of, you know, the moral argument against the treatment of these animals is one thing. The actual cost of paying the fines, of doing the upkeep, of dealing with outbreaks or whatever it may happen, you know, you talk about it, this was unaffordable for the average family. What did it cost to actually get to go see one of these shows, and how does that compare with what it actually cost to put one of these shows on?
Well, I think you'd have to address the circus directly to see what it costs to put one of the shows on. Feld has been quoted as saying they spend upwards of $65,000 a year on an elephant. I know that some of the accredited sanctuaries in the U.S., they attribute or they devote $10,000 to $13,000 a year to take care of one cat. In the U.S., the licensing fees for these circuses are nominal. The penalties for violations are rare. When they are assessed, they're often negotiated down. They aren't covering the cost. One example is an organization, Carson and Barnes, was hit with a measly $3,700 fine, which was a conglomeration of 2 years' worth of investigations and citations. And certainly that $3,700 would not have covered the cost of sending investigators out there. And the OIG, the Office of Inspector General, has noted that the agencies aren't spending the money they're getting wisely. And in fiscal year 2012, I think it was, the Animal Care Division of the USDA, the arm that looks at exhibitors, was appropriated $29 million. So they're getting a lot of taxpayer money, and the Office of Inspector General is saying they're not spending it wisely. There's not enough inspectors to go around. And so many of these circuses are not, in fact, the guidelines for the inspectors reassure the inspectors that they don't have to make it to every show. So what are we paying for exactly? And the science would say that even if we did inspect them, that under the best circumstances, the animals can't tolerate these circumstances.
All right, there's lots to delve into here, but we've run out of time. This has just been fascinating stuff, and thank you so much for your insight into this story.
Thank you for having me.
Christina Screen, the General Counsel of Animal Defenders International.